This is Amud Yomi Gemara Berachos Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph. We pick it up at the bottom of Mem Ches Amud Beis. We are 3 lines from the bottom. Tanya. Now we get involved in the actual text of benching of Birchat Hamazon. Tanya, we learned in a brisa, says the Gemara, if you don't say the following line, in Berachos Eretz Chamda Teiver Chavar, desirable, good, and spacious land, Malchus Beis David ben Yerushalayim, and if you don't mention the Malchus of Beis David in Bnei Yerushalayim, Lo Yatzi Yidei Chavasei. Nochem Azaki Noimer, Sar Sheyisker by Bris, you have to mention the Bris Milah in Berachos Eretz. Rav Yesi Omer, Sar Sheyisker by Torah, Palima Omer, so she acted by the Bris. The Torah bris comes before Torah. Why? Why does bris come before Torah? Says Zu, because Torah was given Nitna b'shalish brisais. V'zu, whereas bris milah on the top line of Emtasam and Aleph was Nitna b'shalish esrei brisais. So says the Gemara, bris milah comes before Torah. Rav Abba Omer says Rav Amma Sar Shemer by Haydat Chilav Esayif. You have to say Haydat beginning at the end. And if you say less Haydah, don't say less than one. If you say less than one Haydah, say no Haydah. Anyone who finishes Baruch Hashem, Manchal Aratzis b'Berachos Haaretz, who gives over lands in this bracha of Berachos Haaretz, or Moshe Yisrael b'nei Yishlayim, or in the bracha b'nei Yishlayim, he hands over Baruch Hashem Moshe Yisrael Harei Zeh Bur. It's not the right way of saying it. So says the Gemara, based on the aforementioned brisa, let's bring a raya 8 lines down. Tesam and Aleph. First one line is Yatsa Misayeh Lei. We have a raya to Rav Eloi, Dam Rav Eloi, Rav Yaakov, Rachel, Mishum Rabbeinu. Kosh Lamer Bris L'Torah b'Berachos Haaretz, and who doesn't mention Bris Milah or the Torah in the bracha of Berachos Haaretz, Malchus Beis David ben Yerushalayim, Lo Yatza Yidei Chayvasai. So that really takes care of the first 3 brachas of Birchas Hamazon, of blenching, and their text. And now we get up to the 4th bracha, the Derabanan bracha, the bracha of Hatayv v'Hametiv. Says the Gemara 10 lines down. First one line is Yidei Chayvasai, Pligi bar Rav Abba, Yosi ben Dustai v'Rabbanan. Abba Yosi ben Dustai and the Rabbanan debate as follows. Chad Omer Hatayv v'Hametiv Sricha Malchus, Chad Omer Sricha Malchus, Manda Omer Sricha Malchus, because every kid the Rabbanan. It's a din d'Rabbanan. And as we mentioned prior, because it's a din d'Rabbanan, it is not part of the rest of benching. It is not a 4th bracha. Therefore, it's its own independent entity, and therefore it needs malchus inside the bracha. Malchus kesavar de'araisa holds it is de'araisa. To read one word of Rashi, 3 lines from the top, as we just spoke out, that's the nekuda, that it's not a derais, not a chaverta, it's its own entity, and therefore it's going to need malchus inside the bracha. Malchus being Hashem Elokeinu, Melech Ha'ilam, is Malchus. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Mahu Chaitim. About 20 lines down, after the 2 dots, says the Gemara, quoting a brisa, Mahu Chaitim. Well, how do we conclude the bracha of Bnei Yerushalayim, Binyan Yerushalayim, referring to Bnei Yerushalayim? Rabbi Yehuda Omer Moshe Yisrael. Moshe Yisrael in Bnei Yerushalayim Loi. What's going on? This is the bracha of the Bnei Yerushalayim. So why would you only conclude Moshe Yisrael? Says the Gemara, Elaima, no, Af Moshe Yisrael. You would have to say both of them. Says the Gemara, quoting a story, Rabba bar Rav Huna, Iklai lebeirish kalusa pasal b'chad v'sayim b'tarti. He began this third bracha of Bnei Yerushalayim with one subject, and he ended with two. He began Rachim Nashem Lakino Yisrael Amecha V'al Yerushalayim Yirecha, and concluded just with Bnei Yerushalayim, which of course that's the flip. That's what we do. We start with two and we end it with one. He started with one, ended with two. Is it great to end with two? Which of course that's what we do. We just end by Berachim of Yushalayim, but when we start, we say Rachim Nam Shalakin al Yisrael Amechav al Yushalayim I Recha. Continues the Gemara Gufa. Let's dive a little bit deeper into Rabbi Omer Ein Chaytvim B'Shtayim. What exactly does this mean that we don't conclude with two? Esvei Levi the Rabbi. What do you mean? But the second bracha we say Al Aret V'Al Hamazayin. That's concluding with two. Eret Demivka Mazayin. Says no, it's not two. It means the land that gives off Mazayin, so it's really all one. Ask Levi further. Al Aret Al Abeiros. What do you mean when we say the bracha achas mein shalosh al amechya al eis? How do we end off? Al ha'aret vi al habeiros. Two different subjects. Says the Gemara Sif Teret eret demifka peiros. Mekadosh Yisrael v'azmanim. What do you mean in Kiddush we end with two? Yisrael the kachinu lizmanim. Says the Gemara no, it's not two. It means Klal Yisrael that are mekadosh lizmanim. Mekadosh al Rosh Chodashim. What about Rosh Chodesh? Says Rabbi Yisrael the kachinu Rosh Chodashim. Mekadosh Shabbos v'Yisrael v'hazmanim. Chutz mizu. So on this one, finally, Rebbe throws in the towel. It says you're correct. Mekadosh Yisrael Shabbos v'Yisrael v'hazmanim is indeed more than one subject, which is a kasha on Rebbe. And Rebbe says this is the one time that I am masking. Says the Gemara, why? U'mayshna hacha. Mayshna. What's the difference? Explains the Gemara. 5 lines from the medium-sized lines. Hacha chadhi. In the case of Shabbos and Yontif, it's really all one. But Hasam, in the bracha of Bnei Yerushalayim, it's tarti. Kol chada v'chada ba'pei nafshei. V'tayim amay chutz b'meshel v'sheinois emisos chavilois chavilois. So we're explaining is that when we say Mekadosh Yisrael Shabbos v'Yisrael v'azmanim, that's all one phrase. We're praising Hashem, says Rashi, that He is Mekadosh Shabbos, Zmanim, and Yisrael. It's all one Shevach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But by us, there are two different things. It's Mekadosh Yisrael and Yerushalayim. Now, even though we could theoretically say a similar thing, that it's all one praise, says the Gemara, it's not. V'tayim amai in Chaytim Mishnayim, again, mitzvahs, chavilois. Continues the Gemara, my Allah. So what is the maskana? How do we conclude the bracha? Amar Rav Shishas at the end of the narrow lines, Pasach berachem al Amchi Yisrael, v'chaysem b'meishei Yisrael. Pasach berachem al Yushalayim, chaytim b'bnei Yisraelim. Says Rav Shishas, however you start, you finish. If you start with Amchi Yisrael, you got to finish with Moshe Yisrael. If you start with Yushalayim, then you finish with Yushalayim. Rav Nachman Amar, no, afilu pasach barachim al Yisrael, chaytim Yushalayim. Mishum shenemar b'nei Yisraelim, Hashem nilchei Yisrael yechanes. Emosai b'nei Yushalayim, Hashem. Bizman shenilchei Yisrael yechanes, when the dispersed of Klal Yisrael will be gathered in. Amalei Rav Zir, Rav Chisda, Nesi Marvinis. Nikam, let's learn. Amar Lei Rav Chisda said, Berachos Mezayna Lo Garmina V'Tanuya Masnita. I don't even know how to bench, and you want me to learn? Amar Lei Rav Zir said, Maya Hai, what do you mean? Amar Lei Rav Chisda said, Diklei Lebi Rish Kalusa, because I went to Rish Kalusa, Berachos Mezayna, and I benched. V'Zikvar Rav Shishas L'Koyei Alai Kichivyon. Rav Shishas straightened up like a snake. He wasn't happy with what I did. Says Rav Zeir of Amai, and why? So explains Rav Chisda, Del Amr Loi Bris L'Tera L'Malchus. I did not say Bris Tera Malchus. So says Rav Zeir, why not? V'amai Loi Amrit. Answers Rav Chisdik, Rav Chanan Alam Rav, then Rav Chanan Alam Rav, Lemir Bris, Torah Malchus, Yatza. Bris, why? Lefi she'ina bin nashim. The bris isn't by a woman. Torah Malchus she'ina lo bin nashim ba'avodim. And that's why he did not see them. Says Rav Zera, we had a whole lengthy list of all Tanaim and Amarayim that said you should yes see bris, you should yes see Torah. You should yes say Malchus. Vavadza Karav, because you have one statement of Rav Chanan Marav that says you're Yaitse. So you went with Rav over everyone else, and that's the reason why Rav Shishas was not happy with Rav Chisda. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rav Chanam, Amar Rav Yechlan. About 10 lines from the white lines. The first one line is Amar. Hatayva meitiv sricha malchus. My kamashlan, what's the chiddush? Kol bracha sheinu malchus. Lishma bracha is that a bracha of Amar Rav Yechlan chad zimna. Yechlan already said. So why are you repeating that by Hatayva meitiv you need a malchus? Amar Rav Zera loim shasricha shtei malchuyois. Chada dida, one for itself. V'chada debayne Yerusha loyim. You need to say both. That's the reason why the bracha of Hatayva Meitiv, we add in Avinu Malkeinu Adirenu, an extra mention of Malchus, in order to compensate for the bracha of Bani V'Rachma V'Shalayim that does not have the Malchus, which is the previous bracha before Hatayva Meitiv. Ask the Gemara, Yachi Nibai Talas, if you're coming to make sure that there's Malchus everywhere, we surely need 3 mentions of Malchus. Chad Adida, Chada de Bani Yerushalayim, Chada de Berachos Haaretz. So rather, what are you going to tell me? My time Eloi should have a brachas chaverta, and therefore it doesn't need malchus. So therefore, Bani Yerushalayim nami lo tibai. Bani Yerushalayim is the same thing. They have the brachas chaverta. So why are you telling me we need an extra mention of malchus for the Hatayva Meitiv? Answers the Gemara, you're right. You don't really need to add on for Bani Yerushalayim. Ala'idi dar malchus beis David. Lav oirach aram. T'loyamar malchus shamayim. You're right. But in the third bracha, Bani Berachos Yerushalayim, since you're mentioning the malchus beis David, it's not appropriate to mention malchus beis David without mentioning malchus shamayim. And therefore, we add in that Malchus Shamayim into the final bracha of Hatayva Meitiv. Rapapa Amar, 4 lines from the white lines. Hachi Amar, this is what Rav Yechlan meant to say. Suricha Shtei Malchuyos Levar Medidei, says Rapapa Inachanami. You do have to say 3 Malchuyos to yes compensate even for Berachos Haaretz. And this is actually what we do, that we say, Baruch Atah Hashem, Hakel Avinu Malkeinu Adrienu Malkeinu Hamelech Hatoiv. So we say Melech Malkeinu and Hamelech, 3 mentions of Malchus in the bracha Hatayva Meitiv to indeed compensate. And we're going to stop over here because now we're going to begin discussing what happens when you forget certain parts of a benching and whatnot. So B'siyat Shmaya, we'll pick it up from 3 lines from the white lines. Yosef, Rav Zera, Chayrid, Rav Gidel, the next year, Amir Tzah Hashem.